Hey, we're back with Form Check Friday. Let's do it. Hey guys, welcome back to Form Check Friday. We are live, or as live, I'm live on video. Thank you for bearing with me last week. I was traveling to New York and I thought I'd have a good Wi-Fi connection in the hotel, but it was just trash. So I couldn't record. So we ended up typing up the Form Check notes in the thread on Reddit. This week, I'm at my folks' house in Los Angeles, so I found a little corner office I can make do with as an impromptu studio. There's kind of papers and stuff all around, but whatever. Next week, I'll be back up in Idaho in my home office studio with a better camera, and we'll be back to normal. But thank you for bearing with me and for your submissions this week. It looks like we've got 5 or 6 good ones. Hopefully they're good. Hopefully not. It's more interesting when they're not. We get more stuff to talk about. So let's dive right in and we'll get into form checks, see what we got to fix this week. So here we go. Number 1. Okay, hello. As you guys know, I say this every week, but for those that are just joining for the first time, I haven't seen any of these videos in advance. I haven't read any of these comments. So this is all on the fly. And let's dive in. So I'll start out this week. I noticed my elbows dropping for the bounce more than the hips rebounding for the bounce. Elbows dropping for the bounce more than the hips rebound. Okay. I am trying to keep my arms tight into my chest at the bottom. Oh, we're talking about a press. I thought we were talking about squat. All right, let's take a look at your press and see what's going on. I'm going to kill that volume. I found this cool, I don't know if this is a short, but I found this cool little extension for Chrome where it automatically converts shorts into the traditional YouTube player, which has been really useful because those shorts, I can't pause. I don't have the controls to pause, rewind. So hopefully that will fix a lot of the delays and stuff like that. All right, so let's take a look at your form and see what we got to fix here. Okay, so I'm going to watch a couple of these, just make sure, get a feel for it. This is the beauty of video coaching. We can stop and rewind, and then I'll make some comments, and we'll get you sorted out. All right, so I kind of talked too much there. Let me go back, and we'll start from the beginning. Okay, so bar looks a little bit too far from your face. So let me just watch the full set here. You're very flexible. You can get a lot of distance forward. And okay, so overall, you've got the motion right. It looks to me, and you look a little loose. So the thing with the press, like in all the lifts, we want to be really tight. So any tension throughout the entire body, because the more stiff your body is, the more you're going to be able to transfer the force from whatever muscles are generating it to the bar. Any looseness in your body when you're lifting is going to absorb, you got a power leak. You're going to lose some of that force. So we want to be as stiff as possible, tension from the head to the toes, and then we're only moving the muscles that we need to move. You're pretty bendy here, and this is not an easy thing to fix other than to tell you, get tighter, squeeze everything, squeeze your forearms, squeeze your abs, squeeze your legs, like full tension. But let me watch another few of these. Your elbows look good here. So if you see how far your hips travel, it's like your hips are doing what they're supposed to do, but I want it to be punchier. So if you're real tight, that bounce is going to be like an abrupt pop and recoil. Yours is more of a slow bend and a slow rebound, So the more aggressively you can pop those hips forward and dynamically, the more that bar is going to jump up off your chest versus just kind of dipping down and slowly coming up. If it's almost jerky, it's going to pop more, and that momentum is going to carry it higher, which is the whole point of the hip motion here. So it's hard to give you an exact fix here other than to tell you to squeeze your abs harder, Make sure that you're reaching. Let me see if I can do this. Oh, nope. Where's my drawing tool? I think, oh, here it is. Make sure that you're reaching forward from down here. Okay, so one of the big issues with the press, and it looks like you're doing a pretty good job, but you want to be reaching forward from the thighs. Okay, one of the ways that, or one of the errors we see with the press is a lot of times people try and get that range of motion by bending forward at the low back, and you're going to feel that. You'll feel a sharp pinch as your lumbar spine overextends. So you want from your hip to your head, you want that whole segment, like from your waistband to the top of your head, to be just like rigid. And the area that you're pushing forward is actually the thighs. So you might be doing that. I mean, it kind of looks like you are, but I just want to clarify that point so that conceptually you're thinking push lower forward, push the thighs forward, not the low back. But you look pretty good. And you'll know, like I said, you'll feel like a pinch in your lumbar. I can't see your grip because we're shooting from the side. So I don't have a sense of how tucked in you are because of the way that the bar's moving up and down, kind of like gradually, like we talked about earlier. It's not like a pop. It makes me think that your grip might be too wide or that you're letting your elbows flare out too much. And what happens with that is as you go to do the pop, your arms travel back too much, okay? Versus if you're tucked in here and you've got your triceps sitting on your lat here, like almost blocking it from coming back. One, it supports the bar, right? And two, as you do that pop, the elbow can only travel back so much, right? And then it bounces off the lat and it gives you more spring. If your grip is out here like this, too wide, then the elbows can travel all the way back here and you get a much less pronounced bounce. So make sure, most guys are going to be, webbing of the thumb and the index finger right on the edge of the knurling. Maybe if you're a bigger guy, you're like a finger width out into the knurl, but not much more than that. So make sure your grip's narrow and make sure that your elbows are tucked in and resting on your lats. And then when you go to pop, it's going to stop the elbow from traveling backwards and it's going to give you more of a bounce off the lat. So it'll be tighter versus, like I said, this sort of gradual dip, and you're not really getting a whole lot out of that bounce. Let's go back and watch another one. Excuse me. You're getting under it great. Like I said at the beginning, you've got the overall movement down. We're just talking about cleaning it up a little bit, making it more efficient. And so the big thing that I mentioned early is that the bar is kind of making this loop away from you and then back. So it's kind of going like this, out from your face. And then I should have done a way better job cleaning up in here, whatever. It's going like away from your face and then back. And so what you want is for the bar to go from here almost straight back, like it's grazing your face. Anytime it travels forward away from you, that's extra leverage. It's going to make it feel heavier. Okay, so let me see if I can pause it and I'll just draw it for you. So from here, I'm on a different notebook here, so I don't have my quick keys set up, I guess. But from here, we want the bar to go this way, right? It's almost like we say up, but I want you to think about pushing it directly up and back behind you. And what that'll do is sort of even out. So it is just like straight up and down. But right now, your bar path is kind of going like this. Okay, that's obviously an exaggeration, but that's the idea. So elbows tucked in, resting on the lats, and then when you're pushing, it's going from here back like that. And that's what you want to be thinking about as you come back underneath the bar. Okay? Overall, very good. Tighter elbows. Let me see what you said here about the elbows. Elbows dropping for the bounce more than the hips rebounding for the bounce. Okay, so we kind of talked about that, right? So I suspect that we're getting this, right? Rather than this, right? This little pop. I can't actually put my elbow further back than this because it's tucked in, resting on my lats. So everything stiffer, abs real tight, legs should hurt when you're done pressing because you've been flexing them the entire time. Whole body rigid, elbows tucked in, resting on the lats. right? The whole time, every time you bring the bar down and reset, elbows come in, up, and down so that you are back in that position, and pop it up and then straight back behind you. And I think you should be good to go. Okay. Hope this helps. Really good overall. Thank you for posting, and we'll move on, but feel free to make those corrections and post a video next week. All right. Thank you. Let's see. Hope this angle is okay. I wasn't planning on submitting a check. Thanks in advance. 315 by 7. Okay. I know the steps, but for the life of me, I can't stop myself from nudging the bar forward 1/2 inch on every rep. I don't feel like the bar move, and I don't feel the bar move and don't feel my hips drop. But when I look at the video, I see it. Maybe I'm being too critical. I want to fix it, Nate. All right, my man, Nate. So let's see what Nate's got going on here. Okay, get me out of the way. And where's the play button? Oh, let me get the volume down. All right, let's watch Nate. Let's go back. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so this is an easy fix, Nate. Yeah, okay. I mean, overall, very good deadlift. Minor problem that you already identified. And the fix is a very simple solution. So here's the deal. I don't need to see any more of these. All right, so as I've said many times talking about the deadlift, the cadence for the deadlift is, for the setup, once you put the bar down and reestablish the balance over the midfoot. So you're making sure you're not on your toes, making sure you're a little bit on your heels. Hips are high, you're feeling a stretch behind the knees, right? So set the bar down, get the hips up in case you dropped them on the descent. Roll the bar back to the shins. Make sure the weight is even where you want it, a little bit on the heels. And then once you've established those fundamental things, then you're going to initiate the deadlift pre-launch sequence, we'll call it. And that sequence is breathe, squeeze, pause, pull. Take a breath, squeeze your chest up, pause, and pull. And you are missing the pause, okay? So you'll notice when I hit play here, you are starting the pull while you're setting your back. So you're squeezing your chest up and then immediately starting to pick it up. And what that does is, A, you don't set your back as much as you could, right? Because you could, if you took a pause there, that pause is meant for you to check that you're as squeezed up as you can be. And it's meant to also check that if you did happen to nudge it, you have that little pause to roll it back to your shins. Okay, but most people, once you get good at this, you won't do that. In your case, that pause also prevents this pendulum motion, because if you're squeezing your chest up at the same time you're trying to pick it up, the bar swings away from you every time. If you squeeze your chest up and pause and don't try and pick the bar up, then you're set, you're motionless, and you just push straight down and it will stay right on your shins. Okay, so watch, you'll see it every time. See that? There's no pause. So as soon as you set your back, you're going to pick it up. It's like this dipping with the hips and lifting the chest at the same time. The bar has no choice but to swing out away from you. That one was a little better, actually. You see, you hesitated a little bit and it didn't swing as much. In fact, probably because you're getting tired, right? So squeeze and hold and then push. So it's actually, now that I'm watching it again, the later reps are more of what we want. And I think it's just out of pure, maybe you remembered or maybe you're just tired. See, that one didn't swing away from you at all. Last rep, right? You don't have, in the beginning, you're kind of excited to start it. And so you're squeezing and pulling at the same time. Okay, we'll watch one more. Yeah. It's funny, now I'm watching it again, they don't look as bad as they did the first. That one, okay, so, because you're not really dropping your hips all that much. I mean, I would say that's an acceptable amount of hip lowering to get that back extension. But that one, you see. Okay, so the fix here is very simple. Take a breath, squeeze your chest up, and hold it for just a beat, just like a little second to make sure, yes, I am as squeezed up as I can be. Yes, the bar is touching my shins. Okay, now I'm ready to push. And that little pause will fix any of this tendency for the bar to swing off and break contact with your shins. So if you feel that from now on, That's what happened. Okay, you rushed it. You didn't put that breathe, squeeze, pause, pull. Okay, other than that, these look great. You look jacked. Good job. Happy to see your progress, and thank you for submitting. Hope that helped. Okay, moving on. We're going to tear through these. My dad is he comes home from work and he's just very excited. He's a very excited man. So I'm trying to get these done before he barges through the door. Okay, moving on. Happy Life. Great name. Paul, here's a set of 4 deadlifts at 320. It's my heavy work set. Thanks for all the great advice on last week's squats. Let us see here. Volume's already dead. Okay, here we go. So we'll watch a few of these. Okay, so we got kind of the same issue here with the bar swinging off the legs right away. Yeah. Okay, let's just finish. Oh, we only did 4 here. Better. Okay. Not a bad set overall. I think the big issue that you have is weight distribution. So see how here you've got weight on your toes here. You're like way out over the bar. Okay, and so what's going to happen is it's not going to come up off the ground there, right? Because your weight wants to be midfoot and in the deadlift a little bit back on the heels. So as you set your back and then naturally kind of rock back into the correct position and start the pull, the bar is going to start to break contact with your legs, just like the guy in the last form check video. It's this squeezing the chest up and pulling at the same time that causes that bar to sort of pendulum away from you. So the fix here, again, the deadlift is, you see it kind of swing out a little bit. If you watch the bar against your shins, that one was a little better, but you still, all the way up, you've got too much weight on your toes. Let's see if it cleans up. That bar, and another reason that I know that is because that bar doesn't look like it's really touching you on the way up. It looks like it's kind of a little bit off your legs. Maybe it's sort of just grazing your shorts. You want to drag the bar up your legs. So if you think about the bar path in the deadlift, I want you to think about kind of pulling it back like this. Almost like you're falling backwards and you're using the weight in your hands to counterbalance you. What you don't want to do is have any weight going forwards because the bar is just going to break off your legs. So you're kind of thinking pulling from here back like that, maybe not straight up. Ideally, it will move straight up, but it helps to think about it as going back that way, like back to your heels. So let me get rid of this and we'll watch another one, see if I catch anything else. Yeah, so if you just make sure that bar drags up your legs, so it touches your shins, it touches your shorts, it touches your thighs the entire way up. If you make that happen, if you do what you have to do to make that happen, it will be correct. And the big way to fix that, or the easy fix here, is that you just have to put more weight back on your heels, right? Especially if you're deadlifting in weightlifting shoes, which I highly recommend. That's my preferred method, but they do have a little bit of a heel, which is going to kick you forward naturally. So to compensate for that in the squat, in the press, we want your weight to be evenly distributed across the surface of your foot. In the deadlift, I usually tell guys 60-40. So 60% of the pressure is on your heels, 40% on the balls of your feet. So when you set the bar down here, let's see if we'll talk you through resetting from after the first rep. So you need to be back more before you pull. Okay, that's why it swung off. And okay, so I'll stop it here. Okay, so you set it down here and you set it in front of the middle of your foot, which is fine. That's what happens. That's why the plates are round, so we can roll it back. So from this position right here, what you need to do is make sure your hips are high enough and there's tension behind your knees, right? If you don't feel a stretch behind your knees where your hamstrings insert, your butt's too low. You don't have that problem. Your hips are you're doing a real good job keeping your hips high. So all you need to do from here, after you set the bar down a little bit in front of the middle of your foot, is just shift your weight back onto your heels. Now that doesn't mean drop your butt, okay? The back angle all the angles are correct here. This is just about moving the system back a little bit. You won't even move that much. It'll be like 2 inches of shift, like nothing, but it makes a huge difference. So from this position right here where you are, make sure your hips are high, and then just shift your weight back onto your heels a little bit. Then the bar will still be out away from your shins. Roll the bar back to your shins. Okay, so it's over the middle of the foot, touching your shins, weight's back on the heels. And then from there, take a breath, squeeze your chest up real hard, pause for a second, and then drag it up your legs and drag it sort of up and back. Okay, and that's your main thing here. Every time you set it down, you're not, see that one, you pulled the bar back, but your pressure was still on your toes. So it's going to keep doing that. You're doing half of it, which is pull the bar back to your shins. But before you do that, you need to rock back onto your heels a little bit more. Okay, keep 60% of the pressure on your heels, then roll it back, then set your back, and then push, and it will come straight up your legs. Okay, and let me see if everything else looks real good. I just want to check your knees on this real quick and see if there's anything going on. Yeah, I would also say, just since we're here, is make a little bit better effort to push your knees out into your elbows. Not so hard that you bend your elbows, but you want to push your knees so they're lightly touching the insides of your elbows, and that will bring in more adductor muscle. Okay, more muscle, you're going to lift more weight. So rock back on your heels, make sure the knees are out into the elbows, squeeze your chest up, make sure the pressure's back, towards the heels, and then just do everything else that you're doing, and this thing will drag right up your legs. Cool? All right. Thank you. Good demo of some common problems with the deadlift. Thanks for posting, and post up another one. Okay, we got 2 more. We're flying. All right, Dick. Greetings from 150 feet above sea level. Okay, feeling quite positive this week as I had a good session where I seemed to conquer the knee cave. Good. However, I'll leave you to be the judge of the process. Hopefully nothing else I've worked on has deteriorated. That's always the thing. Have been practicing bouncing out of the bottom and getting accustomed to the correct stretch reflex. So Dick, we've been working on his squat, and overall the form has come a long way, but he's missing the kind of rebound out of the bottom. So in the text form check I did last week, I was talking about doing sort of bouncing pause squats, which is a normal pause squat. You go down to the bottom and you shove your knees out and you just feel the bottom position before coming back up. For someone who has a problem feeling the stretch reflex, you go down to the bottom, you shove your knees out, and then you kind of bounce your ass up and down a few times, 2 or 3 times, just to feel the stretch in the groin, get the rhythm of it, and then you catch it and go up. And so those sort of bouncing pause squats can help people who have sort of a subtle stretch reflex, which I think Dick had. So this is my 3rd and final set at 138 kilograms, which is now my light squat session. As before, don't judge the socks. I will judge away. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's see what Dick's doing this week. Volume. All right. Beautiful socks. Tucked into the knee sleeves. Here we go. Better. There we go. So the first one, you kind of hesitated on leaning over too much or enough right away. Much more pronounced hip drive. Let's see here. You still got the scoop on that last one. Let me see if it pops up in any of the other ones. But your hips are still moving back and up in the circular motion instead of just straight up and down. Part of that is because, again, we've talked about this a number of times, you're not getting as leaned over as you need to be at the bottom. So I'll show you what I mean. Look at where you are right now, your back angle, okay? So this angle right here. And let's look at now look at it at the bottom, right? So you're going from here halfway down to here at the bottom, okay? I want you here. I want this angle that you assume at the bottom by the time you're halfway down. Okay, let's watch another rep, see if you do it again. I bet you will. Okay, so it's better here. So we'll pause it about halfway. Okay, right? Where's my little drawy tool? We're here. Okay, there's our angle. Okay, now that's going to go away. And so you're just going to have to remember that angle. But we'll go down to the bottom. Now look. Now we're here. Okay, much more closed. This is the angle that you need by the halfway point. Okay, and the reason that you're still getting that scoop, even if you're doing a good job keeping your knees out, which it looks like you are, is that as you start to drive up, your back's going to assume the angle that it wants, okay? Because you didn't get there. So it's going to get there as you're pushing back up and you get this circular hip motion, right? So the fix here is you got to lean over more, faster, right away. Just dive for the damn floor. Like as soon as you start squatting, lean way the hell over and shove your ass way the hell back. That will also increase the stretch at the bottom, right? So your bounce is a little better. You know, I don't want to BS you here. It's better than it was, but it's still not where it needs to be. And I mean, that was decent, but you can still get more out of this. And the way that you're going to do that is by fully stretching those adductor muscles, right? But those need to be fully stretched at the bottom. And if you don't, you know, it's getting the knees forward and out, but it's also shoving the hips back, and the hips go back as you lean over, right? So as you point your chest down, butt, the hips go back that way as the knees go forward and out. And now the entire descent is stretching out these adductors. So if you don't do that, if you stay too vertical for too long, then you're not stretching because your hips aren't shooting back. And then as you get to the bottom and you start pushing up, then you finish leaning over and your butt shoots back, but you're not going to get a bounce that way. It's like they're finishing their stretch as you're starting to come back up instead of being maximally stretched before you even reach the bottom and then bouncing off that full stretch. You're getting the full stretch as you're already coming back up. So that's why it's not this pronounced rebound. So the solution here, man, is just you gotta lean over more. And hopefully if you're videoing yourself and you look and you see that you took a much more acute back angle at the bottom than you did at the halfway point, right? If I go back to your halfway point, I mean, I already did this, but you know, you're still too upright here. Okay. That this angle is not as acute. You know, when you're at the bottom, you're going to be like here. So that's it. You got to lean over more. And you still don't forget about this part, right? This chest up, elbows up, puffed up chest, because as you can see, when you're at the bottom, you're still getting a little soft there. See kind of how rounded you are in the upper back? Okay? You shouldn't look like that. If this is what you look like at the top, right? This arched up back, you shouldn't look like this at the bottom. You should look like this, but just leaned over more. Okay? So you're kind of giving that up as you go to the bottom. So this is like more things to think about. Still, you're doing great. Every time we see these, they get better and better. But the leaning over part is hard for a lot of people to get. And, the rounding, the not keeping the chest up is going to also affect your ability to do that confidently. So you need to work on, like, if you're doing your pause squats and practicing and your upper back looks like this, you're not doing them right. Okay, because remember, the pause squat, and forget about the bouncing ones, the typical pause squat, you're asking yourself three things. Is my weight balanced over the middle of my foot? Are my knees out as wide as they could be? And is my chest as arched up as it can be? Or did I lose that extension as I went to the bottom? And I would bet, I mean, maybe with lighter weight, you're doing it, but at heavier weights, you're losing it. So that's a big thing when you're practicing the pause squats is, you know, if you're going to incorporate the bouncy ones and the go to the bottom, pause, check, weight on the foot, knees out, check the arch, check the upper back extension, register that that's all correct, and then practice the ass bouncing. Okay. And get yourself leaned over more. You're just going to have to, like, it's like I say all the time, it's going to feel wrong because it's going to feel like you're leaning over way too much. But if I was there yelling at you, I'd be like, Dick, just humor me. Just do one where like you think you're just going to topple over, you're leaning over so much. And I'm going to yell at you because like, dude, Dick, that's way too much leaning over. Like make that happen, make that your goal. And I promise you, if you do that, it would be right. So it's going to feel wrong because what you think is right is wrong. So you have to do the wrong thing to be right. All right. You with me? Lean over more. That's the takeaway here. Okay. Nice work. Work on the upper back, work on leaning more. Again, you want your ass as far back as you can shove it, right? So get more horizontal and push your butt back and get that stretch. And that will fix the scoop. It'll give you a much more pronounced rebound. Everything will fall into place. Okay. Let's keep going, man. You're doing good. Stick with it. Don't get frustrated. This is all, you know, most people that I've worked with occasionally will just assume that this is good form. They don't bother to fix it. And then, you know, at some point they get hurt or it's not working anymore. Then they come see me. And for, you know, years, they've been squatting incorrectly. So you're doing the right thing and trying to dial it in. And I'm happy to help you along the way. Like, it's annoying, I know, because we've been working on it for a little while and it's frustrating, but like, you are taking the right approach in wanting to fix this because when you finally get it, when you feel it and notice the pronounced bounce, notice how much more efficient the lift is, dude, sky's the limit with weight. Okay. So good work, man. And stay with it. All right. Last one here. Paul, as suggested, I've given some pause squats a go here for the first couple of reps. Tried to speed those up for the last 2 through, though I think there's a little knee cave on some of these. Thanks for all the input. All right, let's see. Last one here. See that? It was supposed to be a short, converted it into a normal one. I got the player. I'm pumped. That's a cool little fix here. Okay, last one. Let's see what we're doing. Get some water. It is hot as hell in here. I look like bright red. Okay. Oh, yeah, I remember you had like the super narrow stance. Still too narrow. Dude, widen your stance. Okay. Well, let's watch a few of these. Okay, so there's a couple things here. But watch your chest. See how quickly you get out, you stop pushing your hips and just start standing up? You're just opening up like a clam. You go to the bottom and you're just doing this, okay? That's not how this should look. So let's talk about it. Let's get you straightened out here. So first of all, I think I left you notes last time. Your stance is way too narrow, okay? So in order for you to get a correct stretch reflex, right, which is stretching out the adductor muscles, those rubber bands on your groin. If your heels are this close together, you could squat all the way down to touch your ass to your heels, and those rubber bands aren't going to stretch, right? Think of the opposite. Think of if I had you put your feet out as wide as you possibly could, right, all the way out. You're only going to be able to squat like 2 inches before those tighten up. Okay, so excuse me. So we want to make sure. Or we want to try and find the stance width that puts the limit of the stretch of the adductors right at 1 inch below parallel. Right at the bottom is where we want maximum stretch because that's where you're going to get that rebound. Okay. So most guys, it's heels basically lined up with the outsides of the shoulders. Okay. That's kind of where the feet go. I mean, I'm doing this for the little circle here. And the toes are pointed out. So you need to point your toes out a little more. So then you've got 35 to 40 degrees out and then go wider, like significantly wider. Like you're not going to get any stretch reflex out of the bottom here because they're just way too close together. Okay. So move the feet out about 3 inches on each side and point the toes out so they're like 35, 40 degrees, that's an easy fix. Okay, so let's talk about the rest of it. So a little too upright on the way down, and you can see, like, let me see if I can, let me draw here. You can see that your knees aren't even jacked out that hard. They kind of look like they're just like straight ahead here. Okay, this needs to come out wide. Okay, so if I could walk up to you, and part of it is because your toes pointed forward, right? So your toes need to look kind of like this. That's a terrible drawing, but yours are kind of like this. You need turned out more and wider. Okay, and then knees jacked out so that the toe, the knee, and the toe line up in that wider angle. Okay, that's where you're going to get the stretch in the groin that creates that stretch reflex. You're not going to get any, you're just going to go down to the bottom here and just stop and then come back up with no help from the stretch reflex. So toes out more, wider stance, knees jacked out real hard as you can. Like if I could walk up to you right now and put my hands between your knees and pull them out, they're not out as much as they could be. Okay, so those are simple fixes, but really important ones that'll make a huge difference here. And then let's see, and then the big other issue on the way up, like your depth is good, but on the way up, we need hip drive, right? So this, you need to be driving up here, okay? You need to pretend the barbell is sitting across your low back, right? The barbell's actually here, okay? That's what you're imagining. And if you're gonna come up out of the bottom with a bunch of weight right here, how are you gonna do that? You're gonna shove this up, okay? You're gonna lead with your butt. That's where all your power is, right? Right now, you're just, everything's quads. You just want, and I don't know, maybe you were a cyclist in the past or something like that. A lot of times cyclists like want to do everything with their quads because they're strong and the hamstrings and posterior chain's really weak because there's no eccentric component to, it's all concentric quads when you're riding a bike. I'm not saying you're a cyclist, but I wouldn't be surprised. So from here, once you hit the bottom, you shove your ass up. Okay, so when I'm watching you from the side, right, if this is your hips and this is your chest, right, or your shoulders, you're here, you lean over a lot, you take it down, and the first thing that moves out of the bottom is this. I should see your butt move like 2 inches up, and then the rest of it follows along, okay? But follows along maintaining this same angle. Okay, so what you're doing right now is out of the bottom, instead of me seeing you drive your butt up, you're just lifting your chest. You're trying to just stand up by lifting your chest. And when you do that, you kill all of your hip drive, and your hips are where all the power is. That's where the power is in the squat. You can get away with this form for a while, but if you don't learn to use your hips, you're going to hit a wall at a weight that's significantly less than what you're capable of doing if you bring in the muscles of the posterior chain and drive your butt up. Okay, so if you watch your chest, so for you right out of the bottom, this is going to lift up like that. You're not going to drive this at all, maybe like a half an inch, and then you just start, like, here's your angle, right? This little back angle, and this is just going to move back like that. You're just going to open your chest up, and which means you're just making your quads do all the work. So let's watch one. Just pay attention to where the bar is on your back and watch how quickly it lifts. Yeah, we'll watch another one in full speed. Lean over, and then that one was you started to hip drive, but then immediately just started lifting your chest up too soon. Like, I got like that much hip drive. Okay, so these are very, very common problems that, I mean, most people will encounter if not coached to do otherwise. So when you come out of the bottom, you're going to drive your butt straight up. And maybe what I'll do is see if I can find a little demo video for you of this, of what it should look like. That one was just hips and shoulders. So on a lot of these, what's happening is this and this are both moving up at the same time. Okay. Or I should say this, right? So you've got your hips and your shoulders, and they're both moving up at exactly the same speed, and then the shoulders even outpace the hips. What I want is hips first, okay, and then later then the shoulders tag along, but you never lift your chest until you're almost at the top. So the thing that I yell in person is lean over right away, and then stay leaned over as long as you can on the way up. When you get near the top, then you can finish standing up, because if you don't, you'll fall over. Let me see if I can find an example of some hip drive here. And maybe I normally have all this queued up, but coaching images and videos. So I think I have to download all these. Well, is there a hip drive one? Here we go, hip drive. It's going to make me download this. I'll have to probably edit. Okay, so this is one of the videos I use a lot because it's not a very heavy weight, but the guy does an excellent job of demonstrating hip drive. Okay, so just keep your eyes on his hips, okay, and watch how they move out of the bottom. Oh, let me kill the volume on this. Okay, so we'll just watch a few of these. It's a great example. Notice his stance is wider. Okay, he's going to lean over, shove his knees out, and watch his butt. Ready? Boom. See that aggressive hip drive? Right? And then the back angle stays consistent. And then when he gets near the top, he does what you're doing. But really pay attention to the hips. See that pop? It's noticeable that he's leading out of the bottom with his hips. Okay? That's what we're looking for here. That's what I want. Maybe I can show you Josh, my favorite squatter, one of our starting strength coaches. Just has like unbelievable form. There we go. A little, what is that? 405, 410, or 415. Josh has impeccable form. I love watching him squat, but watch his hips, right? He's going to control the descent. He's going to lean over slow and then watch his hips. Boom. You can see that he's starting the drive up back here, right? It's a noticeable push up. And pay attention to his shoulders on this one. See how he stays, his back angle is perfectly consistent all the way to the top, and then he stands up before he falls, okay? So that's what you got to work on. Wider stance, toes out more, lean over more right away, and then out of the hole, drive your butt up and stay leaned over as long as you can on the way up. Cool? All right. Work on it. Post some more videos, and we'll get you dialed in, man. I think overall you're in a good spot. These are, like I said, these are very, very common issues, and we'll get them straightened out, and then you'll be a beast. All right, thank you for submitting. I think we did it all for this week, guys. Thank you very much. We managed to get through this. Like I said, next week I will be home in Idaho with my little home studio and my nicer camera, and I will see you guys then. Any more news that I have? Ebook, I did a soft launch on Reddit, so I kind of pre-released it to some of the guys. They seem to dig it, and I'm making a few more corrections, and they helped me proofread it. So I'm gonna edit that and shoot some more videos, some exercise demos. There's a lot of assistance exercises in the book's called Radically Simple Muscle, in case I haven't told anybody about it. So I will be shooting those videos as soon as I get back, creating the content library so everyone knows what I mean when I say do front plate raises or incline cable flies or something like that. And then we'll do a big launch, and you guys can pick up the sort of finalized copy. And for those of you who've already purchased it, like I said, I will find a way to get you the updated version. Just make sure you keep your receipt. But I think I have it all saved in my commerce platform, so I should. So we'll figure it out anyway. Thanks again, and we'll do this all again on Friday. I'll see you guys online.